Okay, 4 minutes. In order to affirm the proposition that torture is justified in the ticking bomb case, it is necessary to define the following key terms. Torture, the implementation of non-lethal, non-permanent, and temporary pain designed to entice the receiver to divulge his information that would be regulated by the governing body. Justified, to be warranted and well-grounded. Ticking bomb case, extrapolated from Dershowitz and Waldorn, this is an instance in which an imminent threat exists that will no doubt take the lives of countless innocent victims, and where an individual or a group of individuals has the knowledge to thwart the plot, but won't reveal that knowledge voluntarily. Today, I will affirm the proposition by applying the arguments of the cost-benefit analysis of torturing versus not torturing, and then demonstrate why the rights of the innocent should truncate the rights of the terrorist or criminal, which will offer further justification for torture in the ticking bomb case. While my teammate will focus on how torture will be controlled and regulated, as well as the deterrence factors and comfort it can bring to the victimized society. First, in order to understand the inherent justification for torture, we must examine the cost-benefit analysis proposed by Dershowitz. In the words of Dershowitz, it is surely better to inflict non-lethal pain on one guilty terrorist who is illegally withholding information needed to prevent a large number of innocent victims from dying. Therefore, this is a situation in which Dershowitz and Waldorn both agree can be classified as the ticking bomb case. That case being any instance in which the torture of one person will save numerous lives. An example being a situation in which a terrorist places a bomb in a skyscraper. We don't know what skyscraper or in what city, so clearly we cannot evacuate every skyscraper in America. But if that terrorist revealed the location of the bomb, then lives could be saved, and therefore I assert that the cost-benefit analysis suffices in its duty to justify the use of torture. In the everyday inner workings of society, citizens are forced to make similar choices on a daily basis. For instance, should a firefighter turn right to save 5 lives or left to save 1? Clearly we would expect and condone his sacrifice of the 1 life to save 5. Thus, we have established a simple yet effective utilitarian precedent for justifying torture with limits that will later be drawn by my teammate Daniel. In addition to the cost-benefit analysis, the almost obvious need to place the rights of innocents above those involved in potentially deadly plots offers further justification for torture in the ticking bomb case. Michael Levin, a City College of New York philosopher, proposes that there is an important difference between terrorists and their victims that should mute all talk of terrorists' rights. Additionally, it is crucial for us to keep in mind that the terrorist or extremist initiated the actions that got them involved in the plot in the first place, while the intended victims have done nothing. Therefore, in theory, if you apprehend a suspect that you know to have knowledge of the imminent ticking bomb, our legal system would require you to process the arrest and then get him a lawyer before you can even start asking him questions. Then there is no guarantee that he will cooperate. Meanwhile, the bomb could go off at any moment. Additionally, consider how in retrospect members of society would feel if following a deadly and horrific attack that their government had the ability to thwart the plot by utilizing torture, but sought to prioritize the rights of terrorists over their own citizens. This could lead to a serious loss of legitimacy of the government. Thus, I would contend that having established the suspect has the knowledge needed to thwart the plot, and given the overwhelming rights to life of the intended victim, the rights violation of the suspect are justified, and thus torture is justified. In conclusion, through scrutinizing the cost-benefit analysis and prioritizing rights of intended victims over those offenders who had the ability to exercise free choice, I have advocated that torture is justified in the ticking bomb case.
Oh, what's up? To complement my partner John Ford's 2 contentions on why torture is in fact justified in the ticking bomb case, I will now argue for the proper legal regulation of torture as well as its effectiveness in deterring future crimes against citizens. First, the legal regulation of torture in the ticking bomb case would force officers who would execute torture to abide by the law. By regulating the legal use of torture in the most extreme and trying of times, not only can we grant the American public peace of mind, but we can also preserve the integrity of our legal system. Thus, any claim of becoming susceptible to a slippery slope is unfounded, since the legal regulation of torture in the ticking bomb case will be prudently adhered to. Such proposed legal regulation could be led by a panel consisting of the Commander-in-Chief as the leader of the nation, national security officers who would be knowledgeable on the potential threat of terrorists in question, and judges who would provide the necessary legal and judicial advice. All members would examine the case in extreme detail prior to making such an important decision. The true danger lies in inaction as a result of being unprepared. In such dire situations, we must have an appropriate plan of action in order to save as many innocent lives as possible. The alternative to responsible legal regulation of torture in the ticking bomb case would be a blanket prohibition on torture. Such a proposition contains significant downfalls. It is perfectly clear, by considering the cost-benefit analysis described by my partner, that torturing one criminal while saving several innocent lives is the more justifiable option, as opposed to allowing the potential criminal to get away with such premeditated malice. Instead, the legal regulation of torture would allow for a specific plan of action in times of crisis that would save the lives of innocent Americans, and do it by abiding to certain strict guidelines, especially tailored to the extreme scenario that characterizes the ticking bomb case. Instead of having the United States government tainted by appalling encroachments on human rights as a result of the lack of legal regulation of torture, we could save the lives of many innocent citizens by emphasizing that potential terrorists will suffer severe consequences for their criminal actions. That is precisely what leads me to my second contention. My partner John and I believe in the power and effectiveness of deterrence. If there was a way to deter potential terrorists from committing atrocities, and as a result save the lives of innocent Americans, shouldn't we advocate it? Furthermore, that is exactly why we believe that torture in the ticking bomb case is justified, because it would effectively deter potential terrorists from putting their lives and the lives of Americans at danger. With the legal regulation of torture in the most drastic of situations, not only are there legal benefits from a transparent and legitimate protocol that deals with criminals effectively, but the chances of a terrorist attack occurring would decrease significantly, because offenders would be made of the stern consequences that await them if they decide to break the law. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, America tightened its national security and took several preventative measures to eliminate the potential for future terrorist attacks. As a result, the dangers of domestic and global terrorism permeated the consciousness of American citizens. With the legal regulation of torture in the ticking bomb case, Americans will feel much more secure about their personal safety. By eliminating the possibility of falling prey to the theory of a slippery slope in terms of excessive and unreported human rights abuses, and by prioritizing the personal safety of innocent Americans over that of a single criminal, the legal regulation of torture in the ticking bomb case is undoubtedly justified and provides for a suitable and timely response to terrorism against American citizens. Thank you.
In analyzing the ticking time bomb scenario, one must consider many factors to conclude that torture in this case cannot be morally permissible. First, it must be mentioned that no situation like or even similar to this scenario has ever occurred. Instances of interrogation torture most often occur during war times, or when officers need small pieces of information to pair with other small pieces of information to formulate theories, evidence, and leads. Thus, it cannot be considered very reasonable to use such a hypothetical scenario to discuss the moral or legal implications of torture. It is also important to note that most terrorist acts are intricately planned, implying that one member of a terrorist group is not